Dearly beloved, we have gathered here today to get through this thing called Shield. Electric word, Shield. But let's not forget that it's not for a very long time. It's not forever, because forever is a very long time. I'm here to tell you there's something else. And that something else is one last evening with our friends in Shield, and we're assembled. We have all assembled our own elite team to talk about it for this very special Marvel movie talk. I'm Christian Bladt, and with me as always is Rachel Goodman.
Hey everyone, I just want to say that one, I was almost in tears during this entire episode, but two, and most importantly, I feel honored to be on this panel tonight because the reason I found out about AfterBuzz was because I was such a huge fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I watched the AfterBuzz Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel, and Zach and Megan were both on that show, so I feel like this is poetry in motion that I am here tonight with the two of them, and Christian. I'm sorry, that came up.
Well, I mean, they're the poetry, and I'm kind of the I'm the fat beast in the background that the poetry is set to. So I will take that. And speaking of Megan, I'm literally getting to know her for the first time right now. Megan, say hello to everyone.
Hello, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, and welcome back for the last time. But I am so happy to be here. I'm right there with you, Rachel. I especially towards the last couple minutes of the episode, I was very close to crying. I held it together. I held it inside. But who knows? I might just go ahead and start crying right now on this show. But yeah, I thank you guys for having me.
Oh, no, absolutely. We're thrilled to have you. And of course, last but certainly not least, for the first time in months, getting to talk Marvel with each and every one of you merry Marvelites, our very own Phil Coulson, or at the very least, Coulson's right hand, Zach Wilson.
I'm the left hand, Christian, the left hand.
No. I very specifically chose the right hand. I knew what I was saying.
Oh, it's so good to be back. If you did more panels in the middle of the night, I could do it.
Yeah, I'm usually asleep by now, but this is. I know a few people who stayed up even on the East Coast, where it is 2 a.m. because they wanted to see all of us and what we were doing. But
you gotta talk S.H.I.E.L.D. It's the series finale. I cannot believe it's the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series finale. That's a crazy thing to say.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, just to start, I think. Well, I'll throw to you in a second. Sorry, Megan. I think the fact that this is when we got the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series finale, and that it wasn't 2 years ago or longer ago. You know, the fact that we got 7 seasons and whatever it is, like 130 episodes. But I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Megan?
Oh, I was just going to say, I can't really believe it either. Like the entire first hour of the 2-hour finale, I was like, this isn't the end. No, this is a regular episode. Like, we're going to be back next week.
Yeah, and that's the thing with me is I was the same way. My brain could not process that this will potentially, unless there's some kind of spinoff later, this will potentially be the last time we see these characters, and definitely together. That's the part that's heartbreaking to me, and the fact
there's not gonna be a spinoff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm counting
anything that Jeff Loeb touched is dead.
Well, I'm not counting on a spinoff, but I'm just saying theoretically, like unless they do some kind of spinoff or there's like some kind of Friends reunion in 20 years, yeah, no.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, should we be reminiscing now or talk about the episode and then reminisce?
Well, there's sort of they go hand in hand, really. I mean, there was a lot of reminiscing, but of course, enjoying. And by the way, let me just get this in here because I can put comments up on the screen when we use this program, although it doesn't seem to be working.
Andrew Fedge.
Well, that wasn't the one I wanted, but yeah. So hey, y'all.
Hey, Andrew.
Well, I wanted to. Yeah, there's Ghost 8386. Oh, so many familiar names. Alvin Kura, I see in the chat. I'm wearing the badge that Alvin Kura sent us for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show in like season, I want to say season like 3 or something. Because that I was so long ago. And that's what I wanted to reminisce, because it's like, it's such a weird thing to think about, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and doing the after show. Like when I started doing it with Megan, I was just a guest in season 1 where I popped in for like one episode in season 1, ran off the craziest theory that made no sense, especially now, which, to remind you, my theory was that the Kree that they had dug up and filled Agent Coulson with was actually Mar-Vell, and that Coulson was going to turn out to be Captain Marvel by the end of the series. That was the nonsense.
It would be Miss Marvel.
Yes, and that Sky would turn out to be Miss Marvel. That was my theory for what they were doing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I've never forgotten it.
But then, so many people like Kristen, Matt, Jesse, Joyce. I miss all those guys.
I'm glad for the little, Easter eggs that we got, like with Victoria Hand coming back, and how, and the fact that she got to kill John Garrett, I was like, thank you. Like that, seemed like justice to me. And she didn't even realize what she was doing. It was so, and she, I thought that that moment played out really well. And John Garrett got the death that he deserved, not drawn out, just done.
Yeah, literally the
kind
second
of like the season 1 death.
Literally the second the character outlived his usefulness, he was like that second he was dead, and like, yeah, great, we don't need him anymore.
Yeah,
that it was unceremonious, but in the way that's deserving. Well, let's take a look at it as a whole. I mean, obviously, this was shot as 2 episodes, but we got them both at the same time. So, Megan, I think you have seniority, so we'll go ahead and let you just overall thoughts on hours 12 and 13 of season 7.
Like I said, the first hour, I felt like it was like, I was just like, I'm along for the ride. This is a regular season finale episode. It didn't feel like the end until the second half. But that being said, I really like how all of this played out. I really liked how the team worked. I liked how in a lot of ways, this entire season has been building up to everybody playing their respective parts in this finale. Like if even a single member of the team hadn't been there, the whole thing would have fallen apart. And that was part of the point. And as much as I would have loved to have more Fitz this season, it was really great getting to see him reunite with the team and slowly allow Gemma to regain her memories. And I feel like more than anything, everybody is left off in a place where, even though they're no longer a team, I'm still happy with the way this all played out, because no matter what, at the end of the day, they're still a family.
Yeah, I think that the old softie in me really liked all of that, and I'm happy that I'm able to be happy for everyone. But I wanted death, I wanted suffering, I wanted tragedy. I mean, think about like the way that a great British series finale, 2 comedies. These are comedies, Young Ones and Blackadder Goes Forth. Every main character dies in the last frame of those shows. Think about all the Doctor Who companions that have died, the way that the Doctors regenerate. It's always sad. This is like, okay, so we'll see you guys next year. All right. Have a neat summer. They're like all signing each other's yearbooks. So
counterpoint.
I thought that the most well, I'm just saying that's what I wanted. The most fitting thing, I think, would have been for Coulson to die, because he's supposed to have been dead in the first place. But what were you going to say?
Or, ironically, he will never die.
Everybody died but Coulson.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the whole point, is that the irony, it's like, this is like a Palpatine moment, kind of, except not. But, if with Coulson, I kind of figured they had to keep him alive, number one. And number two, they had to end with Coulson the way that they kind of started. And same thing, like we got Lola. Like I really loved that touch. I felt unsettled by the ending, even though it was very happy. I was very satisfied with how they wrapped up Fitzsimmons. I love the fact that we had Cora, Daisy, and Daniel together because family, she's with her biological half-sister. And she obviously keeps in touch with Gemma, and she's with Daniel. So I feel like she got a happy ending. The thing that felt unsettled to me was Mac, maybe a little bit Yo-Yo, but more so Mac, May, and Coulson. Because to me, if this was all about them wrapping up their this crazy time they had together, one, I really wanted May and Coulson to be working together. And I know it's Coulson's academy. Why did they kind of imply that Coulson really hasn't been around much, that May hasn't seen him? That upsets me. Like I wanted them to be together, even if he is an LMD. I wanted them to make it work. And so I'm really sad about that. I'm sad that they don't see each other every day. And then with Yo-Yo and Mac, they kind of like implied that they lived together and they saw each other all the time. They were still together. But I felt unsettled with Mac because I got the sense that Mac wanted to retire, especially when he had that conversation with Daisy. And so to me, I was like, well, why? I want to see him kind of live in the Fitzsimmons life too. But then it's like, I never really got that from Yo-Yo. I felt like she still wanted to be out there. So that to me made sense. But I felt overall unsettled because I wanted us to learn that even though they weren't in a team together anymore, that they still saw each other all the time. So I think that was my ultimate critique, even though we generally got everything wrapped up.
I'm like Christian. I had some bloodlust going into this episode. No, I mean, look, as
monsters,
for a series,
you're both monsters.
For a series finale, it was like it. I am somebody who gets super emotional at endings of shows like this, but this didn't hit me in the feels the way I expected it to. I think because I never really felt like anyone was in danger, even when Daisy was in space. I was like, well, they're gonna get her. Like they didn't play that moment like she was gone. They played it like she was going to be saved. Yeah. Just the way it was put together. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was just like maybe I'm just so discolored by the way that most shows end that they have to kill someone. I'm like, well, somebody's gonna die, right? Who's it gonna be?
If somebody doesn't die, I'm gonna write a strongly worded letter.
I like where each of them ended the series though, because I get why May and Coulson aren't together right now, because this isn't May and Coulson, not the ones that we shipped together for so many years. This is Coulson LMD, which is a different guy. It's a different. It's weird comic book stuff, guys. Exact same actor, exact same personality, different person. And May is doing a different thing. Did anyone else think that she was gonna be running support groups the way she was talking? I've got a group that I have to go deal with.
That's exactly what I thought we were going to get. I also thought she could have been watching over children, literal children, But I thought it was I thought it was going to be the least likely thing we saw. And then it turned out to be exactly what you would have expected. Yeah, I agree with that. When we saw Daisy in space, I don't think any of us, I just thought she had that completely unexplained Princess Leia power where she ended up in space and then, just was alive anyway. But anyway,
that is not how that works. How dare you come for The Last Jedi while we're talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I've got theories that we're talking Last Jedi.
Oh, don't worry.
Don't
worry,
the
Zach.
time
We're talking
nor the
about
place.
Hey,
and I can quote
because we're talking
too.
about series finales. Because we're talking about series finales, I'm going to come for the Lost season finale a little later. But for right now, let's get back.
Don't even start, Christian.
That's where I thought they were headed with this, by the way. Either Lost,
no.
That's it, Christian. The jacket's coming off. I'm coming over there.
The whole thing was going to be time. It was going to be the framework, and they were going to wake up. Oh, hey, here we are.
Yeah, we were texting beforehand. And Rachel said that she had this theory that she didn't want to be true, but that the last few seasons would have all been within the framework. And if I said, because for people that have seen me on these shows, they know how much I hated the framework. I think it went on 3 or 4 episodes too long. That if this had all been the framework, the 3 of you never would have gotten a chance to talk for this whole hour because I would be so angry that there's wouldn't time. So I'm glad we did it.
They did bring in the framework, though.
Screaming.
One day,
no, bring it in. The whole thing had been the framework. I don't like it was all a dream. I never want that to happen. And
no, Christian, at some point.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Rachel.
No, I was just going to say, all it takes is one line. They could retcon it really easily.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Megan?
I was going to say, if you have words about the Lost finale, you should come on to my podcast, No Love Lost. Zach's been on a couple times. I need more people on my side. But that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. Oh, on your side, 2 hours can undo 6 years of goodwill and make you hate the series now.
2 hours
yeah, we
can
could
pay off 6 years beautifully and make you cry every time. But this show had 2 hours.
But here's the thing: this show didn't.
And
this show didn't. I can't imagine that this show made anybody cry. This finale, like except for Gemma. Well, oh wait a minute, Rachel.
25% of the
tears,
panel
or
cried.
did you just get close?
Actual tears because it was ending, and because I don't want this to end.
Yeah, because so was it that you didn't have more Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or was it there a specific moment that made you cry? Because that was the thing. I didn't feel like there was one moment where they like hit me with any emotion.
For me, it was 2 things. It was the fact that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was actually ending and we were never going to ever get it again. And that was the bigger reason. I did tear up when Gemma found Aaliyah and that she saw her again and was crying and telling her how much time it had been for her. That part, I was like, yeah, they got me. But
that was probably the closest I got was when I realized that there was a baby that was going to be in the back of there. And I realized it like 3 or 4 minutes before they went there. Like as soon as I remember why we did it. It's like, oh, there's a baby.
Yeah. That was family. Yeah. And look, I've got 2 kids, so usually that's the heartstring that gets pulled the easiest on me at this point in my life. But for some reason, I don't know, I didn't connect to it. I think because I don't think I've ever seen a young actress cast that looked less like the 2 parents. So it really threw me off. That I was just like, well, how did they have this little albino girl who's adorable, by the way?
It was a sweet little British baby.
And she did have Fitz had blonde hair as a child. They showed a picture with his mom.
All right.
A couple seasons ago.
I just because I wanted to show this comment on the screen. Yael just jumped in just to say hi. I don't even think she watches the show. We lost Megan, but I think she'll come back. But we had that comment, but now I assume she'll be back and reconnect. But I think that this was one of the theories that Rachel and I had. That I think that there was a child involved. Now, our other theory that proved wrong, that I'm glad proved wrong, and I'll bring Megan back into the equation. Our theory that proved wrong was that that's all right. It may happen again. It could even happen. It could happen to any of us. The theory that I was convinced that Fitz was. I was convinced Fitz was dead. I thought that was the big secret, and that's why she got so upset. So look, I'm glad he wasn't. And Zach, my specific question for you: when the words quantum realm, when the words quantum realm were said, that had to make that had to obviously put this episode way up in your esteem. Tell me your thoughts as quantum realm came into it.
As an Ant-Man fan, irrelevant, whatever. But like, it was more of the like. I started going. My head just started to like, wait, so when they produced these like back to back with season 6, so that was like 2 years ago, which was before Endgame. So did they know that they were going to do the quantum realm, and then they just guess, and the effects were clearly based on what they did in Endgame, which I like that they sort of like at least tie the different forms of time travel together, sort of, because if you go to the larger MCU, especially with like when you bring in the TV shows, there's like Tony Stark is like, I've invented time travel. And you're like, well, yeah, but like the Chronicons have got it. And like the Runaways did it too for a little bit there. And like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s done it like 4 times. So at least we know the Chronicons also are somewhat based in quantum realm for time travel. It works. It's clean. I do question whether they got back to the actual 199,999 timeline, or if they're in like a sub 1.
Well,
timeline.
Yeah, because I think that they had already branched out from the MCU before. What did they decide? Like after the framework, I think is when. So I think that they're back in a timeline that is not the timeline where the show started, which was
Wait, how do you
when
figure
it was actually
that?
part of the MCU.
I figured it was the framework too.
How do I figure that?
That's when they went into space, and when they came back,
Yeah,
I feel like they were no longer
Yeah.
in the timeline where Thanos did the snap, which is how they were able to eventually avoid it when it happened.
Well, but they did, but they did vaguely imply that Infinity War had happened in season 5. They didn't go into it, but they did imply it. So Thanos did happen. I just don't think it's in the film MCU current timeline. It just is in a similar one. Which is basically just a long way of saying that's why Quake wasn't there at the battle.
Yeah, the towards the finale of season 5, there were a lot of hints and drops about, Infinity War and leading into that. So Infinity War was very much clearly happening towards the end of season 5. What we don't necessarily know is if their time travel shenanigans brought them into a new timeline when they came back from the future, because in season 6, there is 0 mention of the consequences of the snap. So ultimately, I don't think it necessarily matters whether or not they have branched off to a timeline where Thanos didn't succeed. Maybe the timeline where they ended up saving Earth from quaking apart happened to be one where Thor struck the head instead of his arm. But ultimately, that's not really what we're here to talk about. Like we could definitely go season by season. Yeah, we could definitely go season by season and talk about the highs and the lows of each subsequent plot line, because that's the cool thing about the show, is that it kept reinventing itself at the end of every season, each season in and of itself being pretty self-contained, but still having this wonderful, awesome through line where these characters just kept jumping from one crazy scenario to another. And not to go back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the show, but my counterpoint to I didn't need a lot of death in this episode. I didn't need a lot of death for the finale, because it would be so weird if after the wonderful happy ending, although albeit with some consequences that we had for all these characters in Endgame, it would be really, really weird if we had a super downer ending for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't have seemed fair.
It can be bitter. I mean, it wasn't even like bittersweet. It was just like a sweet ending.
You know what? Sometimes that's okay.
It would not have been the Disney way. And Andrew has a great point that what we're here to talk about are the ships.
Yes.
And there were a lot of ships that were manifested in here. But before we get to them, we have to talk about the ship that got tossed aside. Well, the ship that got tossed aside is the character who got tossed aside, the afterthought. Poor Deke.
I know.
I feel bad for Deke. That it was like, I'm here to rescue Gemma, and Deke. Yeah, whatever. Like the fact that that was a runner through the episode, that Deke was literally the afterthought, and Deke even realized, like, yeah, you and Sousa, that's clearly a thing. I don't know why I wasted my lemons on you.
Yeah, he did waste his lemons. I was all about the Queek. You guys know this. You've heard me say it before. I was fully in favor of it until they brought Daniel Sousa into the equation.
Yes.
Which who could have predicted that? Even when it leaked because of Ming-Na Wen's bicycle pick that he was coming on the show, I thought it was going to be one episode tops. I didn't think he was going to stick around and then become a perfect love interest for Daisy.
See, my thing was when the leak came through, I assumed that, like you said, Zach, 1 or 2 episodes, I had no idea he was going to be a love interest. What I thought they were going to do is try to tie in, without bringing Chris Evans into this, try to kind of imply how Peggy Carter breaks up with Daniel and show us how Peggy ends up back with Steve without showing Steve, but just kind of maybe an off to the side camera angle with the back of Peggy's head or something. That's where I thought this was going. But here's my thing. And I've said this on the show with Christian a bunch of times, but I'm just going to say it again because it's worth repeating. I wanted Peggy and Steve together, but when I thought that there was no way that could ever happen, I was very happy with Daniel and Peggy. Now, that being said, now that Steve can be with Peggy, I want Daniel to be with Daisy. So I was like, oh, they can do that? They can do that. And I'm like, yep, please.
Oh, yeah. I ship it. Hold on. Kwusa? No, that sounds weird. Sake? For the sake, I ship it.
Well, our friend Ivan Soto, who's up late, points out that Deke has that last line to Sky/Daisy about wanting her to be happy. He's like, yeah, clearly you're not going to be happy with me, so whatever makes you happy. But honestly, I do wish that there was a post-credit scene, even if it was 5 seconds, of the fact that we would see Deke coming out on stage in Madison Square Garden. The lights go up, everybody goes crazy, because that was just an aside that they made. I'm like, oh, how great would it be if that's right? Because to me, that's where he is right now. And by the time that he caught up with the time stream, and Daisy was around, he didn't want to look her up because he was so happy. I think he probably forgot about her.
Daisy won't be born in that timeline.
Never born,
Nope.
yeah. No,
Jia is dead, Christian. She is dead as a doornail.
Here's the funny thing, though.
Yeah,
if
but
they
for a character, for a character who, who has healing. Rachel and I were talking about this just last week. I actually didn't think Jia was dead, although when they clearly used her stand-in to play her corpse instead of the actress, then you started to think that maybe she wasn't going to be back. I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Rachel? Probably much more significant than that.
No, all I was going to say is that, I just want to, with Deke, I agree. I don't this is one of the things that I felt unsettled about. Yes, he has only been with them since season 5. And I get that they were just trying to incorporate I guess almost all of the originals. Yo-Yo and Mac are not 100% like the original crew, but okay, fine, they're close enough. But I get that that's what they were trying to do with only the people who had been with the team the longest were going to be in that circle. But come on, Deke deserved more than that. Let's at least see what he's up to. And also, the perfect way they could have done that, and it would have played homage to the earlier seasons, is by showing us Brett Dalton being a good guy because Victoria Hand took him under her wing. And so we see good guy Ward, in the framework. That would have made me happy too. And
oh man, we flash forward to 2012. What was it? 2012 when this show premiered.
2012 or 13. Yeah.
It's old man Deke who's 55, and he's like,
his father figure.
It's good to meet you, new recruit. What's your name? Grant Ward.
Oh, they missed an opportunity.
I do also love Christian. I don't know if you can highlight Alvin Kura's thing in the chat. It says the end scene should be Deke in the back of that Cadillac. And it's the end of 16 Candles. I know this isn't the song from the end of 16 Candles. It's Breakfast Club, but 100% it needs to just be Deke flying away with Coulson. Don't you forget about me. So here's what I'm hoping. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. writers, producers, if you're out there, please give us a short film about Director Deke in the alternate timeline I don't know if he crashes and burns Shield or if it's beautiful and perfect, but I need to see it. If not, I will hereby offer myself to come do the comic book. I can't draw, but there'll be some beautiful stick figures.
My fan fiction is now going to be. I'm going to be starting this along with my framework fan fiction. So it is happening.
Oh my god, that's what I need to do.
Zach, you have a podcast. Make this a thing.
Yes,
that's a great point.
I do have a fanfic-based podcast, but it's all romance, and I see Deke being too busy with work to have any time for romance.
He has no more love.
He's married to
Deke's
his job.
True love. No, Deke's true love is his music. So that's a great point. But the job comes second.
I will say I really I was rooting for Deke too when it came to him and Daisy. And at first, when they were really hinting this season at the Sousa-Daisy relationship, at first I didn't know how I felt about it because I was rooting for Deke and because Daisy's had so many boyfriends. She had Ward. She had Lincoln. She had romantic chemistry with Robbie Reyes. She had romantic chemistry with a dude whose name I forget when she was in the future. I think Ben. I don't know. And then she had, and then Deke has always had a big crush on her. And the thing about the Deke-Daisy relationship is that it was always unreciprocated.
Yeah.
Daisy has had real romantic chemistry with a lot of people, but when it came to Deke, maybe it's because he is Fitz and Simmons' grandson, but she always did kind of treat him more once he stopped being a Han Solo type, she always kind of treated him more like an annoying little brother as opposed to a potential love interest. Like somebody who she cared about, but that really got on her nerves like all the time. So once I sort of reevaluated that, I was fully on board with the Sousa-Daisy relationship. I just felt bad for Deke. But at the same time, sometimes it's okay for an unreciprocated, romantic feelings like that to end in somebody being like, yeah, I just want you to be happy. It's better than it's better than a lot of love triangles end where it's just like people are bitter or like he felt entitled to her. Like I kind of did just like that. He was just like, I just want you to be happy. Okay, bye. I'm going to be the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, and it's going to be amazing.
Reminder why Deke is the best, because he's just like, you know what? If you don't want my lemons, that's okay. Yeah. You do you and be happy. I only liked them and I shipped them because I wanted Daisy to be able to like laugh a little bit more. And I love Sousa. I think they're going to be great together. There's no laughter in that relationship at all.
No, he's going to say Quake. He's going to say Quake and she's going to laugh. Maybe.
Yeah. She's going to laugh. She's gonna laugh at his like, "Aw shucks, peachy" and all that. And
he's gonna laugh at him.
That's the big thing. There's plenty of laughter in the relationship. It's just constantly laughing at each other. He laughs at her being called Quake and Tremors, even though that second one is a reference he doesn't get. And she laughs at him saying peachy and crying at E.T.
Well, and the whole thing is, at least there's more humor in that relationship than between Agent Carter and Daniel Sousa. That relationship had no laughter at all. But I was just going to say about Deke that with him and Daisy, what I thought they were doing ever since they, were hinting that Deke was into Daisy, I thought what they were doing with it was kind of similar to what they did with Fitzsimmons, where Fitz was super into Simmons. And at first she was like, no, I'm not, like, I see him as my friend. I thought that that's where they were going with it. And it was going to kind of parallel that until it didn't.
I was also just looking forward to the like River Song style, like awkward, like parent-in-law situation where you're just like, you're my best friend, but like technically you're now like my grandma or something. What the hell?
I think that's why
Megan had an
relationship
interesting. Yeah, I think Megan had an interesting parallel in terms of Deke and Han Solo, because if you think about it, Deke really thinks of himself as a Harrison Ford, but Daisy saw him as an Alden Ehrenreich. So obviously he never lives up to what he thinks he should be. So I don't know. I felt like that was fair. And by the way, Hubby Joe, and for those who don't know, that is indeed Rachel's husband. He has a theory that is coming screen that Deke developed a new drink with lemons and daisies mixed together, and it's called the Quake.
Wow.
Joe needs to actually get in the kitchen and start making that.
Throw
You
a
guys-
little vodka
I don't know what
in
kind of
there, and I'm
alcohol is
down.
in there.
You guys realize
Yeah.
the next album or the next song that Deke is putting out, right? And what hit he's going to do next? It's Lemonade.
Daisy?
Oh my god.
That's the thing, is that like his relationship with Daisy being 100% unrequited is only gonna help his music.
Yeah. I was thinking his song would be something like She Hates Me, like by Hoobastank, or just something.
Yeah, no.
No, what's really fun to think about is that he is effectively the smartest man on earth in this point in time, and everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. is looking to him to lead. And we see what happens when he gets power, when he had his tech company, and I think he's going to do just fine. And I think it's also going to be hilarious.
He also has grown, like, in the beginning, when we first saw him with his tech company, he was literally stealing tech in order to make that happen. But by the end, he literally one-upped Fitz by coming up with an idea more brilliant than Fitz could come up with. That is character growth.
But he did take a
wait to
page
see
out
what
of the
Jeff
Hot Tub
Ward.
Time Machine playbook and steal songs. So,
That's-
some
yeah.
habits die hard. But he
Hot Tub Time Machine. He took it out of the Back to the Future playbook, Christian. The tradition of white people stealing songs that don't belong to them goes way back.
Because Marty McFly didn't make money off of that song.
Your kids
But
will
Craig
love
Robinson did. When Craig Robinson stole the Black Eyed Peas song, he made a ton of money off of it. But anyway, so I think we can close the book on Deke because look, nobody on the team really liked him, so it's fine. No, but
I will say,
loved
just
him.
real quick, I can't wait to see what Jeff Ward does next because he was such a random surprise and he came in such a flat character and then turned it into honestly one of my favorites on the show.
No, when he and Enoch were initially both introduced, I was kind of like, meh, whatever, these aren't the characters I care about. But by the time this series is wrapped up, I have to agree, I love them both, and I'm very sad that Enoch didn't make it to the end. But I am happy that Deke is in a good place.
yeah, I would say that seeing Enoch die a few weeks ago was more emotional than anything that happened in this episode, in all honesty, because I had become very fond of Enoch, which I did not expect when we were introduced to him. And the same with, I felt like Deke was not a character that was going to, come back with them and stay around. And maybe it wasn't even the intention, but he was so great. And I would like to see what he does next. So were any of you completely dissatisfied with the way any of our main characters' story ended? We touched on it a little bit, some things we would have liked to have seen, but in that last scene when they're all sort of catching up, did any of it just sort of ring in a way where you're like, no, that's really not what I want for that character? Or were you, for the most part, reasonably happy with that? I'll ask you first, Megan.
I'm pretty satisfied. I know, Rachel, you were talking about how you were hoping that they all would interact more. But I felt like it was really fitting. I mean, a couple seasons ago, Coulson, when he was still alive, floated the idea to May about, teaching at the academy, an idea which she promptly shot down. So it's kind of nice to see that, she reconsidered after a little while. It was great seeing Fitz and Simmons get to get to be parents in an idyllic backyard. It was really cool getting to see Daisy travel in space with her very, very wonderful boyfriend and her sister. And Yo-Yo, that was a nice one because it put a button on Piper's story too. But yeah, I get what you were saying of like how
Davis.
Like, it would. Yes, LM Davis.
Sorry,
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Meg.
I
got excited.
I was glad that we got but just to interject, I was glad that we got first of all that we got Piper, because at some point in the season I was like, yeah, where is she? And that they came up with an LM Davis. Yeah, I think that was great. And I just want to get this comment off the screen, but I thought it was worth sharing. Alvin points out Enoch was kind of Data and Spock. Absolutely, everyone cried when they ate it. Yeah, all very emotional. All right, sorry. We interrupted what Megan was into. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was satisfied with the way everybody wrapped up in that particular epilogue. The only thing I can think about in terms of like this season that I would critique is that I wanted more of characters we didn't get to see that much. Like as you said, Piper, and like of the first couple episodes of this season, I was so happy with the time travel stuff and going to the 30s and the 50s. I was so excited. But once we got past that, I was like, hey, where did Piper and Flint go? Like, what happened to them? And so I'm glad that the finale wrapped that up. But like, these are characters that I love and enjoy and would have liked to see more of. And so the cameos were wonderful. But I definitely could have gone with more. And that's my only complaint.
Rachel, same question. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to say my most negative comment is that, and I understand that Ian was filming another project, but the fact that we did not get as much Fitz, that we literally got him for a little tiny bit last week, and then we got him, we got him near the end of episode 12, and then for, a normal amount for episode 13, fine. But I feel like it was a disservice to the fans that we did not see more Fitz in general. And, I get it that the actor really couldn't give more time to it, but it just, I wish that maybe they, not that they're going to switch scheduling around for him, but it just makes me sad. And it's made a lot of fans sad just from like watching the forums and watching the different groups. That seems to be the unanimous thought. Why was Fitz, like, why could we not have gotten more of him? Number one. Two, I agree, like, with, not seeing, like, Piper more. That upsets me. And I guess my other comment, too, is that just with everything, not seeing Piper, and just in general, like, the way that, I'm sad that we're not going to get more Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in general, so I can't fault anyone for that. That's just going to be a feeling that I have. But I don't know. I just felt like I said this already in the beginning, but it just felt very unsettled to me, the way that everyone was just kind of there in the group and talking and then gone. Even though the individual characters, I felt like were wrapped up very nicely, I just feel like I just feel a lingering sadness that we didn't get the group like collective wrapped up in that, even if they sat there like with Bobby and Hunter, which I'm also sad we didn't get a cameo with them. But
beat me to that one.
Yeah, but like Bobby and Hunter, they got a spies goodbye. Couldn't this group have given each other a spies goodbye? Or like, couldn't we have gotten a longer ending scene before we cut a year into the future? I wish they would have done just a little bit more to show them happy, to show them saying goodbye before we cut that year. And then, oh, hey, these people really haven't seen each other in a year. Oh, okay, well, it's been a minute. Goodbye. That made me sad.
I think what it is it's where each of them ended was like correct. Like everyone was like where I kind of expected them to be. Like it all fits like where each of them are in their storylines. I have some MCU questions about how S.H.I.E.L.D. is like operating with their logo and stuff everywhere. And I thought that like Fury and Hill were like based on what happened in Endgame and Infinity War. They were sort of like back in charge stuff. I guess they were Sword now, so they're like, you can sure, Mac, you can like use the Shield logo. Like we're not gonna file any claims on that IP.
He has a shotgun axe. No one's gonna mess with him.
Yeah, but like that stray thought aside, I like they all ended satisfactory. But I think it was that there were no in that year later. There were no surprises. Like the Lola thing was cute, and as soon as they said like there's something in there for you, I literally said out loud, "Oh, nice, Lola!"
Yeah.
And then they did it, and like I don't know why Lola had to transform into a space car. It could just be the same red like Corvette. Like it was badass before. It didn't need to be different. But so like. It was all good, but none of them ended in a way like I would have loved if he gotten into that car and like Hunter was chilling in it, like just like something weird. Like Davis was the fact is the most exciting part of that finale, of that like 1 year later finale, was Davis. Davis was the only part that surprised me and got me like actually excited, and that like. Dave is a fun character, but there should have been more in the final moments of the show. So that was all I wanted. I wanted like another character that was like really pivotal to the show, like Bobby, like Hunter, Robbie.
I was gonna say, I think I know what was missing. I know what was missing, guys. There needed to be more kissing. There needed to be more kissing instead of the 1 year later epilogue. It should have just been all of our ships just making out. And
hey, L&D, Coulson, and May for the win. I don't care if he's L&D. I don't care if he's technically a different person. He has Coulson's memories. He should have been with May.
And then Robbie Reyes comes back and starts making out with myself, insert OC, and everything is great.
I think Bobby and Hunter learned the lesson of don't always go for the spin-off. Norman Fell learned that. That's Mr. Roper from Three's Company, because he left to do a spin called The Ropers, and they said, yeah, don't worry about it. If it doesn't work, you can come back. But then it's like, oh, no, we like Don Knotts better than you, so no, you can't come back, but thanks for. So sometimes don't go for the brass ring. Just stay where you are. You know, I mean, really, do you really want to be on the Orville? I think she should have stayed on the show, but that's just me. Unless she ends up on the Hawkeye show where she belongs, then I'll be okay with it.
Is that an actual rumor, or is that just something fans want?
No, that's just me. What were you going to say, Rachel?
No, that she pretty much played the same character on Orville as she was playing on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's really funny, and she gets paired up with her ex-husband. Yeah.
I mean, look, here's the thing. Yeah, I have a hard time complaining because, frankly, the Orville is just a really great show.
It is a great show. I love it. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Let me get this thing, because this is a few times. This isn't so much about the episode, but Michael B wants to know, did anyone see a scene or announcement where the cast are going to the Sword? I can't believe I just did that. The Sword show. No, happening. I don't know. Michael, you're so excited about it, but it's not a thing. Sword will probably be a thing, but there's not like the Sword show sitting there waiting for it. And if it happens, there will be no connection to this show. Just realize there will never be any connection to this show ever again.
There are several rumors about how Sword is going to pop up. It almost definitely is what we saw at the end of Far From Home. There's a rumor that it might pop up in WandaVision, because like that would explain why we're getting help me out here, Captain Marvel, but like the other one.
Yes.
What'd you say?
Yeah, Monica Rambeau is the
Rambeau. Yes, Monica Rambeau.
The other Captain Marvel.
I was trying to remember her other like code name, but it like blanked. My brain blanked.
There's a few. Yeah.
But we know Monica's a pop up, so that's the only reason why I'm like, yeah, I guess Sword for WandaVision makes sense because they've already told us that bizarre detail that we can't explain.
Yeah.
But like, so part of me is like hopeful that maybe they'll bring in Quake to be part of Shield and just like let it keep going and like just let it be a thing and say like, shut up, everyone that doesn't understand, too bad. Go watch Agents of Shield.
Well, Jed Whedon has kind of joked about a sword, though. So,
yeah, but they're not gonna like. That's the thing. Look, the ABC Marvel shows are gone, like in favor of Disney Plus. Like for better or worse, like whether you like it or love it or hate it, that's the future of Marvel television is Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Which is going to mean some next level stuff, but it's just going to mean that like you're not going to get shows like Agents of Shield. It's not what they're doing. And Hellstrom doesn't count, Christian.
Both Ghost 386 and Daniel Drew point out that it's Spectrum. I think I just have a block on the cable company, so I can't remember the name of her being Spectrum. So that's just my fault.
You bring up a great point, Zach, and that's one of the reasons why this finale feels so surreal, and why I think I'm a little bit more satisfied with the happy quote unquote ending that we got, because it's so weird to think that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wraps up after Endgame. Like that was something I never kind of thought would happen. Especially with all the ups and downs that like ABC has gone through over the course of the last several years. Like they changed leadership a couple years back, and that's one of the reasons why Agent Carter got axed, and shows like Gallivant, things like that. So I was constantly delighted and surprised that S.H.I.E.L.D. kept getting renewed, and I'm so glad that it did. But in a lot of ways, I never thought it would make it past Endgame. And the fact that it did is wonderful. But this is the end of an era of Marvel television. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. outlasted Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist and the Defenders. And given the caliber of those Netflix shows, people who would tune in and binge those and not give S.H.I.E.L.D. the time of day, it's sort of surreal to think about that at the end of the day, S.H.I.E.L.D. was the last man standing. And I'm so like, don't get me wrong, I miss those shows immensely, but S.H.I.E.L.D. ended up being the beginning and end of that era. And I can't help but think that's really fitting.
Because Coulson,
I think, Megan, you're
forever.
right in one respect too. Yeah, and I think that one way that you're right is that we will never see 130 episodes of any live action Marvel show ever again. This is the one thing that'll stand out. Be like, wow, why did they do so many? It's not the model that they have. I think you could easily get that much in animation. That's like basically 2 seasons worth if they brought back X-Men the animated series, which is just something I'm hoping for. But in any case, I think that it is there
for second and third seasons. What?
Yeah, but I think that there is Ghost 8386 points out that Photon and Pulsar, there's too many names. That's why I just call Monica Rambeau Captain, the other one. But anyway, I think that the show lasting, that show, The Secret Warriors, I think the show lasting as long as it did is really impressive, as we talked about. And I'm glad we got as much of it as we did. I have a little bit of an up and down relationship with it, but when I liked it, when the show was good, I think it was very good. And even when I didn't love it, I always loved the characters. I was sometimes just certain storylines. I was like, all right, where's Ghost Rider? But I like what you said earlier. I think, Megan, you said it, that it would be so different from season to season. I like that they're like, yeah, let's go to space now. Why not? Let's do something different. And I loved this season, which not everyone liked it, but I know Rachel and we liked some of the this is the film noir episode. This is the 80s episode. I thought it was so fun this year.
That was a chopping mall episode.
Yes.
Yes, the chopping mall episode.
My whole thing is,
go ahead, Rachel.
No, I was just gonna say, like, my overall thoughts, like, now that we have seen seasons 1 through 7, I think everybody on the panel, I started watching back when it first aired. And so I think for me, like, that's one of the reasons that this is so hard, because in 2013, like, I feel like this show, I don't know how you guys feel, this show is so attached to like the first moments of my adulthood life where I lived on my own. And like, it is just what I did every week when it was on the air. I watched it. And for so many other people, it's just because it's been on so long, because it lasted. That is like one of the major reasons that it has such a special place. And the characters like Fitzsimmons, I was drawn to them from season 1. That is why I kept watching. Otherwise, like, I was not, like, quite honestly, I was not as tied to what was happening, because it was more like, until we got to the end of season 1, we were seeing different missions and I wanted to see something that was more connected. And then we finally got there and we got this betrayal with Ward. And then they kind of, we went right into season 2 and everything was just connecting, and the character growth with Skye, who was becoming Daisy, like that to me was really like at the heart of what we saw with S.H.I.E.L.D. and what made it so special, and just the dynamic of the characters and Coulson and May. Will they, won't they? Maybe they never will. Just everything like with them. And then, for me, what did it though? Like, Fitzsimmons will probably always be one of my favorite pairings in television, movies, anywhere. They are up there with me. They are up there to me, along with, like Peggy and Steve and Fitzsimmons are probably my 2 favorite sets of couples ever, and probably always will be. But that's why I kept watching, was Fitzsimmons. But then we got to the framework, and literally, like, everything, I'm a writer, and everything that I write, like, that really, watching the framework really inspired me and influenced me in a way that I don't know if anything else will ever influence me that way. It just kind of unlocked something for me just watching it, that I will always think of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now because of the creative influence that I got from watching that.
It spanned any show that spans 7 years is gonna have like if you really live with it for all those years, which I think it's safe to say we all did, especially like I know firsthand, me and Megan just like spent so many years of our lives like watching it as a group every week. Like no waiting, no delays, no binging later. It was just like, it was a weekly appointment, and then another second hour of our lives yelling about it. That it was just like, it felt like it was like a safety blanket that would have always been there. Also, how many shows are going to have 130 episodes ever of any show anymore? Not just the Marvel, not just like sci-fi superhero. That's I'm not going to insult soap operas, but
soap operas and the Simpsons. The Simpsons has like 600 episodes.
SNL.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
but that's shows that already exist with 130. I'm talking new shows.
Yeah.
New shows.
Not shows that have already spanned multiple decades. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, Alvin Kerr, remember, he says there was a decent amount of yelling.
I feel the same,
especially
guys.
Network shows, yeah.
I
go
feel
ahead,
the
wait.
same.
Sorry, go ahead, Megan.
I feel the same. I feel so indebted to this show, not just for consistently entertaining me, in the way that a lot of shows that I watch and engage with do. But it's not so much the series finale that we got, so much as the friends we made along the way. Like, I am so indebted to this show. It was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show. Me just randomly filling in for Kristen one day because it was just her and Matt for a little while. And she was going to be out of town, and so she asked me to fill in. And she's like, "You like Marvel stuff? You'll be fine." I, for years and years and years, had terrible stage fright to the point where I never wanted to be on camera or do anything like that. And it was just sitting around a booth with a bunch of fellow nerds talking about this show that made me not nearly as camera shy anymore. So I basically owe everything internet wise that I did in the wake of that one time just filling in for Kristen. I owe all of that to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, if I hadn't filled in for her that one day, and if Matt and Steven hadn't been like, hey, so are you coming back next week? Same time next week, right? I wouldn't be the person that I am. Like, and when I think back on this show, I don't just think back on how well written it is and how great the action is and all the other wonderful things that we could say about the show. I think about sitting down with friends, and I think about engaging with people on Twitter and crazy crackpot theories and sitting down and watching it together and cosplaying. Cosplaying together and going to movies with those groups of friends together. And so like I have and going to conventions together as well. Like, so I have a lot of wonderful real world memories tied in, not just watching the show, but making friends because of it as well.
Yeah. There's just so many memories out of the show. Speaking of, I'm going to get something that this is my favorite thing, physical thing that I have from the show. Hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta turn off my camera because I'm not
surprises.
I'm not wearing pants.
Oh my gosh, Zach's got surprises for us. You know, here's what I'll do. I'll just remove him. If he's gonna turn off his camera, I'm gonna kick him out. And then when he comes back, I'll bring him back. Yeah, Rachel, you talking about kind of positioning the show around being an adult. I was 37 when the show premiered, so I don't think of it that way. I think of it like, oh yeah, my house used to be so much quieter before I had kids, but it is such a long time. I mean, there are not a lot of those, and Zach's coming back in right now. But there's not a lot of shows that you stick with for this long. There's shows that have been on this long, but I don't know that I get to stay to the end for a lot of shows that are 7 years. And I think that we're lucky we had as much of it as we did. I think for the most part, I think I'm very happy when I think about good things. I think that it ended with a cast that I really liked everybody. I've talked a lot about characters that I didn't like, characters that I'm glad changed who they were and maybe changed what their name was, but I won't specify who that is, that maybe were characters that I did not like when the show started. So the way it ended, I felt like I just liked the show so much more than when it started. And that is not almost ever the case for any show that you're like, oh, I like it so much more than when it premiered. Usually it wears down a little bit. Now, Zach, what did you step away for? What did you go get for us?
This was during the Ghost Rider season. Megan was there for this because we had Felipe Smith come on. And it was like my favorite after show because when he came on, it was my birthday that day. So he drew me this Robbie Reyes just like casually. He was like, you got some paper? And he just like drew this while we were waiting to start the show. And it hangs like right next to my bed. This horrifying. It's very odd when I brought people home for the first time. They're like, it's like, this is a scary thing to have right by your bed, but it's a great memory. It's Ghost Rider.
It's a wonderful memory and it's a wonderful piece of art. And Felipe, we love you.
It was just like that season was so fun and so like unexpected and unique that like we got a really good Ghost Rider on this show and it fit seamlessly. And it was like ABC's like, we're moving you to 10 p.m. They're like, oh, 10 p.m. you say? Well, what if we got a spirit of vengeance to come in and we utilize the slightly more lax network censorship settings?
We're gonna rip out a guy's spine in the first episode this season. Let's go.
To Alvin's comment, I think a lot of people are aware of this, and I am a huge Mandalorian fan, and I was really excited when Ming-Na Wen was on that episode. So, and I love Mulan.
Yeah, so. But the comment that is that that she did the trifecta: Disney princess because she was in Mulan, MCU obviously May, and then Star Wars because she thought that was great.
I just want to clarify, not
in
Mulan. She was Mulan.
She's the cartoon Mulan.
But
we're not going to remember the cartoon Mulan anymore because we're all going to pay $30 to rent the live action Mulan. We all want to spend $30 to rent it. So that's all we're ever going to think about.
I'm sure the live action one will be good. It'll be fine, but it's not going to be Ming-Na Wen and Eddie Murphy just yucking it up for an hour and a half.
By the way, the fact that she was Mulan was an ongoing joke with the cast, and Brett Dalton, like, he had this ongoing thing on Twitter where they were basically teasing her about it in a good way.
I hope that this is not the end of her on Mandalorian, because I felt like she popped up and I was like, you totally underutilized Ming-Na Wen. She was only there for like 5 minutes.
Coming back. That's the rumor I've heard. Yeah. Yeah.
I will say that there was. Go ahead.
Beeping Goat met her, signed my Captain America shield. So just wanted to give a shout out there. Go ahead, Megan.
I was gonna say, you mentioned that, like, this season finale or series finale. I'm still not ready to let it go. I'm still in denial. But that this series finale didn't move you emotionally in the way that you were expecting. I will say that there was one moment in particular that made me throw up my arms and cheer, and that was the moment where the cavalry arrived. And like, that is a classic MCU. The audience claps moment, and it was beautiful, and I get chills talking about it just now.
That was I think I had the same. I think I yelled yes when she was like, the cavalry's here. And I'm like, that's a ridiculous moment, but I'm here for it.
I was happy to hear it. I liked her coming through the ceiling and announcing herself like that.
Of course.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, that was definitely fun. So we've talked a lot about sort of big picture in the finale. How do we feel like they did tying up the season? Was the Malik Daisy Quake off what we wanted? I thought it was good, and it ended in a pretty spectacular fashion. I felt like it was what they'd been building to, what they had already teased us this season. And I don't know. I mean, look, they could have rushed through it in a way where I was like, I don't know. I think that they tied it up nicely. Let me ask you first this time, Rachel. What did you think? Since we've been going week to week for this show, I wanted to kind of see how we felt about it being tidied up as it was.
I was torn because at this point in time, I was more interested in what Fitz and Simmons were doing, because I saw a leak a couple weeks ago that showed the baby. So I already knew ahead of time what we were going to find out, but I was curious still how they were going to reveal it. So, and I didn't 100% know if the pictures I saw were legitimate or not. They looked legitimate, but in any case, I was more interested in Fitzsimmons and what they were doing. I do think it was necessary, obviously, to have the scene with Daisy as Quake. It was a little like, on the one hand, I do think that we got to see her use some of her power. I still don't know that it was her full power. I guess that's not really the point here. It was just more to distract him. But I also thought that it was a little bit, I mean, he took Korra's power as well. And I just thought that the fact that he had both Korra's power and Quake's, and that's really all he's got. And that's really this fight that we're seeing. Yes, I get it. They like ended up in space, and that's like, it did end up explosive, but I feel like the build up to get there was not as explosive as it should have been. And I did want to see more from Daisy, given this was the last time we were going to see her use her powers in the show. So I was torn, but What did you think, Megan?
I thought it was a great fight. I am always pleased with the superhuman-esque like throwdowns that we always get. So I was happy with that aspect. I could have stood to see him punched in the face a couple more times, but I totally get what they were going for, because he's had years more experience than her. So I get the need to outsmart him rather than overpower him. I could have seen him get punched a few more times or meet the business end of a shotgun axe. I'm just saying, either way, it would have been fine.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see him, like, I wanted her to just like shatter all of the bones in his body and have to watch him like lie there knowing that his plan failed. Those are my favorite for villains, is when they have to like, when they're beaten and broken, but they have to wait for their plan to fail even more miserably. So they have to just like sit there and be like, oh, I suck.
Yeah, he could have spent a little bit more time dwelling on how much he sucked.
I didn't want him to have a quick death. I wanted him to suffer.
Yeah. No, but you know, the little bit that he experienced probably didn't feel good. So at least there's that. Well, we've been talking about this for 70 minutes now, so I wanted to give everybody a chance for some Jerry Springer final thoughts here. We'll go in the reverse order of what we just did. Zach, just sort of final thoughts about S.H.I.E.L.D. and this series finale.
Oh man, can you sum up my thoughts on S.H.I.E.L.D.? S.H.I.E.L.D. as a show, it was so good because it was so many things. It just like let itself be a platform for fun comic book ridiculousness. This season was, I remember hearing before, while they were shooting 6 and 7, from like people that like had like roommates or friends that were working on the show, and they're like, oh man, what I've heard about this show, it is just the most batshit thing you have ever heard. And I didn't even begin to think what that could possibly mean until we got into this season, and they started doing a bunch of themed episodes where they're like, this is the episode in the 30s, and then we're going like to the then we're going to the 70s, man, and like it's like, what? And the 80s episode, what is that? That was insane. I was only disappointed when it stopped and they like went back to doing like more normal episodes. I was like, no, keep doing that. That's so much fun. So that's the thing. A lot of the season was just fun, and the finale had it was a solid finale. I think season 5 ironically had the better series finale. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. sort of has the same thing that like Futurama has, where Futurama has 4 series finales across the run of the show because they joke that they just kept getting better and better at writing series finales because they had to keep doing them because they thought this was it. S.H.I.E.L.D., I thought season 5 was just like, it was a beautiful finale. And then like these 2 seasons are like a spin-off epilogue that's like, we're gonna pick up the show and like we're gonna pick up this series. Like, you get a few more books, just like figure out what to do with them. And they're like, well, volume 2. That's what these 2 seasons felt like for me. Like, they were continuing the characters just because they like got the pickup that they weren't expecting. But it was fun. Like, it doesn't matter. I had fun with these characters. And that's my takeaway. This is just a fun show that I will always remember fondly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The show ended, and I've even said that to Rachel throughout the season. It was just fun this year. I was glad it ended on a fun note. Sure, I was expecting all the death and mayhem, but I'm happy for all the characters that I've become so fond of after all these years. What are your final thoughts, Megan?
Just overwhelming gratitude, not only at the existence of the show and the wonderful journey that it's taken over the years, but what it's meant to me personally, and the way that we engaged with people online who would tune in to watch the show. Like, I can't say thank you enough to everybody who made it happen, and just thank you. And I agree with a lot of what Zach said. This show, it's one of those rare examples of something that did just about everything and yet somehow never struggled with its identity. And I find that fascinating and moving and oh so fun. And at the end of the day, I just have to thank this show for being so fun. And because it's been such a big part of my life, since 2013, my life's taken a lot of ups and downs since then. But always getting to sit down and talk about this show with friends will always be a highlight of that time, even when the rest of my life wasn't going so well. So I always will have this show to thank for being wonderful and for giving me so many wonderful memories. And I just have to say thank you.
Rachel, your final thoughts on S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Well, first of all, I'm honored that I'm on this panel with the three of you, and that really, literally the reason I looked up AfterBuzz in the first place, and I know I said this at the beginning, was because I wanted a place to go and talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was literally it. It didn't have to be on the air, but I ended up finding a home with all of you on the air at AfterBuzz. And so that, to me, is my takeaway, is that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., not only was it a show that was around, and it was, like Zach said at one point, it's a safety blanket, having that kind of show that is always going to come back. But not only that, because of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I found AfterBuzz and I found you guys, and you have all given me a place to talk about this show and other shows. And it's just if I didn't have this right now, I'd be at home. And, hubby Joe and I talk about this kind of stuff too, but it's nice to have a group of people to just talk about the show with and talk about theories. And yeah, so that first and foremost is my final thought, but also they're, going along with friendship and family, which was the theme of this last episode. The characters, I feel like I'm never going to let go of them either, because they became a part of the family, because they were always on the television and they were here year after year. And not just the fictional characters, but just watching Liz Henstridge and just, everyone else live tweet and showing up to Comic-Con and showing up to events. And that was another thing. I have a memory of going to 2018 Comic-Con when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was there and with AfterBuzz. So I have all these really positive memories that are connected to AfterBuzz and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'll never forget them or the show. So thank you guys for, setting this up and being here.
Yeah, I think that it's great to get to talk about, any shows that you're passionate about. And Rachel and I have a very eclectic history, because we also did The Dark Crystal and Curb Your Enthusiasm. So really, there's no rhyme or reason for the show we ended up doing. But that's always the fun thing about doing things in AfterBuzz. And sort of, Megan, you're talking about filling in. Done so many shows with over there, and also my personal podcast, the Blattcast. I only met her because I filled in on the Legion panel once, and we have a very dysfunctional brother sister relationship, but she's one of my favorite people, and it's the only reason that any of us know each other, and. Zach, shockingly enough, I've known you for 4 years now, which I was
sound
just,
right.
Thinking of, because the first time I met Zach, you were engineering a Mets show I did, and Jim Brewer was in the studio.
That's right.
So that was the first hour I ever did there, and I don't think I ever got as good of an in studio guest as I did in my first hour. But so doing this show is a lot of fun. To talk Marvel still after all this time. And, it's a little bit of false advertising, Rachel and I trying to give you our final thoughts, because, well, now it's tonight, because it's Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific. We are indeed doing the final installment of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show. Join Rachel, myself, Tehran, and Katie. We will give you our thoughts all over again. And the best about that is I just answer questions. I don't have to ask any questions. So, so we get to talk about it a little bit more because we're very selfish. But I did want to do this live reaction show. It was something that Zach and I kind of started talking about a while ago. And we were able to do it. I'm glad that everyone stayed up late, especially people in the chat for whom it's 3:30 in the morning, I think you need help. But thank you for being with us anyway and sharing in our dysfunction.
If we go for 5 more minutes, Christian, we can get to exactly 84 minutes. And I think ending at 084 would be perfect. So can we stretch for 5 minutes?
Look, it's not gonna be hard because the plugs are gonna take at least 4.5.
There you go.
So Megan, where can people find you and how do they keep in touch with you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. I also do a Lost a podcast. I almost called it an after show. I'm like, that's not accurate. But I do a Lost.
It's not wrong.
It's after the show. I mean, it's long after the show, but it is after the show. Yeah.
But it is a Lost retrospective podcast where my co-host Will Link loves Lost and I don't. And we talk about it. And Zach has been on twice, and he has been a delight both times. So definitely, if nothing else, check out those episodes.
Just hear me yell about Desmond Hume.
I have a YouTube channel called Silver Screams where me and my co-host Katie Cullen, who you might all remember, she's my roommate. We talk about horror things. And I am also a member of Rooster Team Radio, where me and my co-host talk about Rooster Teeth related projects. So on your podcast app of choice. So go check that out.
Well, that's very 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42 of you. So thank you for sharing that. Zach Wilson, where do people keep in touch with you?
You guys can find me on the other podcast I'm doing right now is called Ships in the Night. And I've literally had every one of these people on that show. We were talking about it a little bit earlier. It's a weird shipping. It's all about shipping and cross fandom shipping. So like, what characters from different universes do you want to see hook up? We've done something like 93 episodes now, which means that we've done almost 200 different ships over this time. Do you want to know what happens if Thanos hooked up with the Grimace from McDonald's? I did that one with Christian. I don't even remember what I did with Rachel and Megan, but I guarantee you it was equally as weird. But yeah, so that's called Ships in the Night. It's on podcasts everywhere. I also write, I don't plug the show as often as I should, but I write on a Twitch show called Artificial, which is an interactive sci-fi series that goes live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific. It's a like scripted show, narrative, but you get to, as the audience, you get to influence the show and change things. It's a super fun show. It's called Artificial. So check it out. It's my entire life right now.
And Rachel Goodman, Rachel Radner, Rachel Author. How do people keep in touch with all of your different personalities?
All right. Let me tell you in my different personality voices. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me pretty much. So my acting and podcasting stuff is pretty much all under Rach Goodman on Twitter. But there is a Rachel Goodman who is an author already, which is why I am Rachel Radner, the author, on a separate pen name. You can find, I'm about to have a third book published in August, but you can find all my books under Rachel Radner on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. So if you have a KU, if you subscribe to KU, you can read my books for free. I have 3 or 4 different short stories. Half of them are out, half of them are not out yet. So you'll see those soon, also available on Amazon. Let me see what else. Let's fill this minute up here. And then, I'm also on a Young and the Restless podcast with Jacob Marquez, who he's watched a lot of the shows here. So you guys might know his name, maybe not, but we do a show. We do Restless Rap to cover the Young and the Restless. And I'm going to be starting up my own, sort of media channel where I, just in case no one else is doing a podcast on it, like for example, Outlander, if AfterBuzz does not come back, then I will be doing an Outlander podcast on my own or with whoever wants to join me. So that's where you can find me.
And Rachel, I think this is going to become my new hook. I'm going to do this in every show. If somebody wants a love story about cryogenics, what's the title of that book?
It's frozen in the night. It's not out yet, but literally this came up because I think you were talking about cryogenics, and I cut in. I'm like, yes, well, this is how it works, because we're talking about Walt Disney. I spent 6 months researching cryogenics, like how it actually works, so that I could write about it in a fictional context. So if you need information about cryogenics, and you happen to know things, the book will probably be out.
If you've enjoyed this show, you're watching it on the Blackcast YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe. BLADTCAST. That is where you'll find video versions of some of the episodes I do of my personal podcast, the Blackcast, BLADTCAST.com. But you'll also continue to find this show where we do indeed talk Marvel. And I have a lot to say about the fact that, damn it, that New Mutant's moving out, and I'm going to go see it at the end of the month, and I don't care who tries to stop me. But we're out of time so that we can end at 84.